before I buy a building, this is what I look for before I buy a multifamily property. So the first one would be location. The location is important. Probably one of the most crucial aspects of the whole process is because you want to buy property in a good location. In areas obviously near grocery stores, good schools, public transit, employee centers, very safe neighborhoods. Overall, your building wants to be located in a very convenient and safe area. The second one would be the physical condition. Based on my strategy, which is the BRRRR strategy, the physical condition isn't a huge point where if it's distressed, that's not a big concern. If anything, that is good because you can now increase the value. But you also want to understand what work it needs. For example, does it need a new roof? Does it need a new heating system like the boiler? How about the plumbing, electrical system, right? These things you want to understand just because these are capital expenses you might have to do when you update the building. Another thing would be structural issues, right? I've been through a few buildings that had structural problems. I try to stay away from those problems because those could be big problems. I don't mind having to put in some money to update a building, but you don't want to get into a situation where you're now having to put tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars just to fix a structural issue with the building. The next one would be financial performance. If you can get the rent roll, if you can get the income and expenses right before you submit an offer on the property, that'd be great, just so you have an idea on what the building is doing in terms of financial performance. Within those financials, you would understand the occupancy rate, you could analyze the operating income, cash on cash returns, and all that stuff. Keep in mind, these financials, unless they're done by a certified CPA, they might be provided and done by the owner, which might not be totally accurate, but it is something to start with. The next one would be analyzing the market rents within that area. This is important just to have an idea on what kind of market rents are going in that area. For example, I would like to buy distressed buildings in really good areas where the owner hasn't increased rents, right? So the rents are way below market. In this situation, just by increasing rents will increase the value, right? So you don't want to buy a building that for, the best building in a great area and the market rents are at market, right? Because based on the strategy I do, it would be hard to increase the value. The next one would be the tenant quality. It'd be a little bit hard to understand the tenant quality unless you do building review and you go into the building and see and meet the tenants. But you can also walk the property. You can also try to get the lease agreements from the seller and see if they're long-term tenants and try to understand if this building has high turnover, because a building that's not in a good area, you might have higher turnover in a sense where if it's not a safe area, tenants won't feel comfortable living there long term. And if you get a lot of tenants turning over each month, it just reduces your profitability. So the next one would be exploring financial options. This one, you basically are just trying to find different financing options suitable for this multifamily building, right? So maybe you are going to, instead of getting like a fixed long-term loan, maybe you're going to renovate the building. So you don't want to get into a long-term loan. So you need either interim financing or bridge financing for a short period of time, maybe 6 months to a year, max 18 months. So you can do the work and then refinance into a low interest long-term mortgage. So you want to figure out what's the strategy for this property. And then one of the last points would be the exit strategy. Before you buy a property, you always want to figure out what is the exit strategy. How are you going to get your money out? How are you going to get the return? And you need to know this before you get into the property. A lot of people see an asset they like, see a property they like, and they just have to have it. No plan, no exit strategy. They just buy it and then just figure it out. Sometimes it works out, but most of the time, if you don't have this exit strategy, it's not going to work out the way you want it. And the exit strategy could be, fixing it up, creating that value add, and then refinancing. It could be selling the property for a profit. In some cases, it could be converting the use of the property. The idea is to try to figure out what is the best option for the best return on investment. And once you have that figured out, then you can execute on your plan. I truly believe this is so important before you buy a property. So take the time to go through this and understand these points before you buy your next building.